The day they replaced you, they didn't upgrade. They downgraded from rare to random. My friends, let's not sugarcoat this. Being left for someone else? Yeah, it stings. It's that sharp, silent kind of pain, the kind that doesn't show up with sirens but creeps in during the quiet. You gave love, you showed up, you were real, and in return, they replaced you like a song they got tired of playing. No explanation, no accountability, just gone, off chasing the next shiny thing. But hear me loud and clear. This isn't the end of your story. This is where your power begins. Before we go any deeper, tap that like button if you've ever been replaced and made to feel like you didn't matter. And if you're tired of being someone's option, someone's backup plan, someone's maybe later, go ahead and subscribe right now. Because around here, we don't chase, we choose peace. This is the home for those who are done performing and are ready to stand in their power, quietly, fully, unbothered. Hey folks, imagine this. You're a lighthouse, strong, steady, always shining for the ships lost at sea. But one day, one of those ships sails away, chasing a flashing light that looks more exciting. They think it's better, brighter. But what they don't know, that flashing light is temporary. It's chaos in disguise. And when that ship starts sinking, because it always does, they'll remember the lighthouse, the calm, the consistent. But by then, the lighthouse doesn't move. It doesn't go searching. It never did. It just stays rooted, glowing in its stillness. That's you. Let me tell you something they never wanted you to know. Being replaced doesn't mean you're not valuable. It means they couldn't handle your worth. A lot of people don't leave you because of what you lack. They leave you because your light shines too bright in the face of their shadows. They crave attention, not connection. They chase validation, not depth. And when they can't feed off you anymore, they look for someone easier to consume. That's not a loss for you. That's liberation. We've been lied to, conditioned to believe that if someone replaces us, it means we weren't enough. That we should have done more, said more, pleaded more. But let's break that lie right now. You were never supposed to beg to be chosen. The right one doesn't make you audition for love. You don't need to compete with the noise when you are the calm. And sure, it hurts. I won't pretend it doesn't. Watching someone you gave your heart to turn around and hand your spot to someone else like it was nothing. That pain is real, but pain isn't weakness. It's a wake-up call. And your response to that pain? That's what defines you. You could fall apart, you could chase them, or you could disappear. Not to make them miss you, but to find yourself again. That's not revenge. That's rebirth. This isn't about making them regret it. It's about making sure you never forget your value again. Because when you go quiet, truly quiet, when you stop explaining, stop proving, stop reacting, something powerful happens. The storm inside settles, and in that stillness you rise. So if they left you for someone else, I want you to take a breath. And remember, you're not forgotten, you're not replaceable, you're just out of reach now. Let them chase illusions. You become the peace they'll never find again. Now drop this in the comments if you feel it. I choose stillness. Say it, type it, let it echo. And don't forget, tap that like button, hit subscribe, and stay with me. Because what happens next? Oh, they fall apart. Number 1. The moment they replace you and what it really means. They didn't leave because you weren't enough. They left because they were too empty to receive something real. My friends, let's talk about that moment. The one that knocks the wind out of you. The one where you look at your phone, your chest heavy, and you see it. They've moved on. Just like that. New photos, new captions, new arms, new attention, and for a second, maybe longer than a second, you feel like you've been erased, replaced. Like everything you built, everything you gave, every quiet sacrifice you made, meant nothing. But let's tell the truth right now. You weren't replaced because you were lacking. You were replaced because they were lacking the maturity to hold what you brought to the table. Hey folks, picture this. Imagine you're a diamond placed in front of someone who only sees glitter. You're strong, you're timeless, you shine even in the dark. But they're distracted by sequins. Flashy, cheap, everywhere. They don't realize what they had, because to appreciate a diamond, you need clarity. You need vision. And some people, they only ever chase what sparkles, not what's solid. So when they left, it wasn't a reflection of you, it was a reflection of their blindness. But I know what happens next. I know what questions crawl into your head late at night when the world goes quiet. Were they better than me? Did I do something wrong? Am I that easy to forget? Let me stop you right there, my friend. Those questions, they don't come from truth. They come from fear, from trauma, from old wounds that were never your fault to begin with. Society, media, even past relationships, they conditioned you to believe that if someone walks away, it means you failed. But that's a lie. Someone else's inability to value you does not equal your worth dropping. You can be gold and still end up in the wrong hands. And let's be honest, it hurts. Deep. The kind of pain that doesn't announce itself with tears right away, but just lingers behind your smile. You might see their new person and start comparing. You start analyzing your reflection like it's on trial. And worst of all, you start doubting your own energy. But please hear this. You didn't lose anything, they did. You didn't get replaced, you got released. And you might be thinking, if I was really valuable, why didn't they stay? My friend, even treasure can be buried and forgotten by those too distracted to dig. Even sunlight is wasted on someone who closes the blinds. You loved deeply, gave purely, showed up when they didn't deserve it. And now they've moved on to someone else, thinking they upgraded. But what they don't realize, they didn't upgrade. They escaped responsibility. That's not growth. That's avoidance wearing perfume. And this part, it's going to be tough, because silence feels like abandonment. Stillness feels like rejection. You'll want to scream, to text, to call them out, to prove that you mattered. But let me tell you something, only the strong understand. True power isn't in proving, it's in pausing. When you resist the urge to react, you reclaim every ounce of energy they took from you. Think of it like this. You're a tree, deep roots, unshaken. They were a bird. They landed for a while, made a little noise, and flew away chasing another tree. But you don't move. You grow, quietly, slowly, powerfully. And one day they'll realize that not every tree offers shade or fruit or peace. That bird might find another branch, but they won't find you again. They left because they thought the grass was greener. But my friend, the grass isn't greener over there. It's just louder, noisy, temporary, filled with distractions and quick highs. But when all that fades, when the excitement dies down, they'll remember you, not because you begged, not because you fought, but because you disappeared, calmly, with grace, with dignity. Let me break another lie. Healing doesn't start when you're finally okay. Healing starts when you finally stop chasing the closure that was never yours to carry. You don't need their apology. You don't need their validation. You don't need their next relationship to fail to prove that you are worth it. You need you, at peace, at center, standing still while the storm rages around them. And yeah, I get it. It's hard. This moment, It's where most people spiral. It's when your brain plays highlight reels of what you had, mixed with fear-fueled horror stories of them being happier with someone else. But fear is a liar. And that voice telling you they forgot you? That's not intuition. That's insecurity, dressed up like logic. You are unforgettable. But you can't see that if you're too busy watching their feed instead of feeding your own soul. This is where Stoicism steps in. This is where you stop reacting to their chaos and start responding to your truth. You don't compete with illusions. You don't beg to be chosen. You let the ones who couldn't handle your light run toward the shadows they're more comfortable in. You don't follow. You don't chase. You rise, quietly, slowly, and you become untouchable. So if you're standing in that moment, freshly replaced, questioning everything, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again, know this: your wholeness was never in their hands. You are not broken, you are just awakening. And this heartbreak, it's not your ending, it's your evolution. Now, if this part of the message hit you, if you felt that twist in your chest from being replaced like you were nothing, I want you to write this in the comments right now. I rise in stillness. Say it. Show it. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you are not defined by someone else's chaos. You are defined by how you choose to respond in the silence. And stay with me, because in the next moment, we're going even deeper. They thought you'd react. But you gave them nothing. And that's when everything starts to fall apart. Number 2, you don't compete with chaos. You exit with class. The wise do not chase noise. They become the silence that echoes. My friends, when someone replaces you, when they throw your love aside like yesterday's news and sprint toward chaos disguised as excitement, your first instinct might be to fight for your place, to prove you mattered, to show them what they lost. But let me stop you right here. You don't compete with chaos. You don't audition for a role you already mastered. You exit with class, with silence, with unmatched self-respect. You see, Stoicism isn't about pretending you don't feel the fire in your chest. It's not about bottling up your heartbreak and faking strength. No, it's deeper than that. Stoicism is about clarity, seeing things for what they really are. It's recognizing that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to shout or scream, but to disappear, not as a game, not as a tactic, but as a declaration that you refuse to battle for someone who never saw your value until it was gone. Hey folks, imagine this. You're in a room full of static, loud, constant, grating noise. People are shouting over each other, everyone trying to be heard. That's them. That's the drama. That's the mess they chose over you. And you? You walk out. You don't slam the door. You don't throw a tantrum. You just leave. Calmly, quietly. You return to your peace. Because you don't have to scream when you know your silence says it all. Let's be real. They want a reaction. They want drama. They want to know they still have a hold on you, even if it's a painful one. That's how chaos works. It thrives on attention. Even negative energy is still energy. And when you deny them that, when you don't flinch, when you don't watch their story or reply to their bait, that silence drives them wild. But that kind of stillness, it takes discipline. And I won't lie to you, it's going to feel hard. Your fingers will hover over your phone, tempted to send that "I hope you're happy" message. Your mind will scream, "Say something. Don't let them think they've won." But here's the truth. This isn't about who wins or loses. It's about who holds their peace and who keeps chasing noise. Let me break another lie for you. You were told that silence is weakness, that if you don't react, you don't care, that if you walk away without explaining yourself, you're bitter or cold. But no, real dignity. It doesn't make announcements. It doesn't plead for understanding. It doesn't perform grief just so someone else can feel powerful. Dignity just leaves, quietly, powerfully, completely, and that's what scares them most. You see, when you exit with grace, no insults, no breakdowns, no public displays of pain, you shift the energy. Suddenly, they're the ones left with questions. Why aren't they reacting? Why aren't they jealous? Why do they look so calm while I'm falling apart? Because you've stopped playing their game. You've left the arena, and now they're swinging at shadows, looking for an opponent who's no longer there. They wanted to be the center of your universe. Instead, they became a ghost in yours. So no, my friend, you don't compete with whoever they ran to. You don't try to outshine or outdo the noise, because you were never meant to fight for attention in a space you once filled with effortless presence. You were the calm, the consistency, the clarity in the storm. And now that you've pulled back, the silence you've left behind is louder than anything you could have said. Let them dance in their distractions. Let them spiral in the same chaos they once glorified. Because eventually, the noise fades, the mask slips, the glitter wears off, and what's left? A hollow version of what they thought they wanted. But by then, you're gone. Not bitter, not broken, just elevated. And here's the thing, your silence isn't just absence, it's presence redefined. It's you saying, I will no longer give energy to things that drain me. It's power, it's poise, it's proof that you don't have to scream to be heard, you don't have to compete to be seen, you don't have to beg to be chosen. So if you're feeling this moment right now, if you've stopped responding, if you've walked away not because you don't care, but because you do, about yourself, then I want you to write this in the comments right now. I exit with class. Say it for you. Say it for the old you that used to fight to be seen. Say it so the world knows you are not the noise. You are the calm after it. And stay with me, because next, they expected a reaction. You gave them nothing. And that's when their ego begins to starve. Number 3. When you stop responding, the illusion cracks. Silence is the scalpel that cuts through ego. My friends, if there's one thing the ego fears most, it's a calm it can't manipulate, a silence it can't decode, a stillness that doesn't feed it. You see, when they walked away, when they ran into someone else's arms or paraded around as if you never existed, they expected a show, a meltdown, an outburst. That's what they were counting on. That's how they stay in control. But when you don't give it to them, when you don't flinch, don't rage, don't send the 2 a.m. message, that's when the illusion starts to crack. Let me paint a picture for you folks. Imagine someone walking through a house of mirrors, confident, cocky, thinking they know every angle, every reflection, but then the lights go out. Suddenly, their image disappears. There's nothing looking back at them. Just silence, just space, just the absence of attention. And that shakes them, because they're no longer being fed, no longer being mirrored, no longer in the spotlight. Now they're forced to sit in what they actually are, not what your energy helped them pretend to be. You see, you were the mirror, you were the light, you were the calm validation that made them feel bigger than they were. And the second you stopped responding, the second you went silent, not out of spite, but out of strength, they lost that reflection. And now the only thing they see is themselves. And that truth, that quiet truth, it's louder than any scream. But I know what happens inside you too. I know what it feels like to sit in that silence. You wonder, do they even notice I'm gone? Are they already happier without me? What if my silence just makes it easier for them to forget me? Those thoughts, that fear, it's not weakness, it's the residue of love. It's your heart adjusting to a new rhythm, one where you're no longer the giver of unreciprocated energy. But here's where the shift begins. You realize that just because they're silent too doesn't mean they're unaffected. People can pretend with pictures, with quotes, with fake laughs, but deep down, the absence of your energy echoes, especially when it used to be the one thing that held them together. Because let's be honest, they didn't leave expecting peace. They left expecting power. The power to make you chase, to keep you on standby, to have you as their emotional insurance policy. But you didn't show up the way they expected. You didn't crack, you didn't perform, you didn't take the bait. And that's when the panic sets in. Because silence, real, steady, unbothered silence, it forces people to ask questions they were trying to avoid. Wait, are they really done? Why aren't they reacting? Did I actually lose them? And here's the twist, folks. You're not punishing them. This isn't a power play. You're not trying to win. You're just done. You've exited the performance, left the stage, and the spotlight they once thought belonged to them. It's shut off. Because the truth is, you were the light all along. Let's break another lie here. People say, if they cared, they wouldn't have left. But the truth, sometimes people care and still choose chaos, still choose ego, still choose self-sabotage. But caring isn't the same as cherishing. And if they didn't cherish you when they had access, they don't deserve a front row seat now that you're gone. And that's the most terrifying thing for them, not that you're angry, but that you're indifferent. Anger means you still care. Indifference, that's the funeral of their ego. That's the scalpel of silence slicing through every illusion they had about how much control they still had over you. They can't twist your words if you're not speaking. They can't feed off your pain if you're not offering it. They can't use your energy when you've reclaimed it. Now, that silence, it becomes the loudest thing in their world. Because they expected you to be on your knees, you stood tall. They expected begging, you gave them boundaries. They expected a storm. You became the sky, clear, calm, untouchable. So if you've gone silent, truly silent, not as a manipulation, but as a declaration of your healing, I want you to write this in the comments right now. My silence is power. Say it. Own it. For the version of you that used to over-explain, over-apologize, over-give just to be seen. Say it for the you that no longer reacts just to be remembered. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you. And stay with me. Because next, that silence you're holding, it doesn't just shake them. It begins to starve their ego. Number 4, the rebound isn't real. It's a distraction. Most rebounds aren't new beginnings. They're emotional cover-ups. My friends, don't let the filtered photos and curated captions fool you. The new person they're with? The one they posted just weeks after ghosting your heart? Yeah, that's not love. That's not healing. That's a band-aid on a wound they refuse to look at, a distraction from the echo you left behind. Because what you gave them wasn't noise, it was nourishment. And you can't replace that with someone they barely know. Let's be real for a second. It stings, right? Seeing them smiling with someone new, watching them act like you were just a pit stop on their way to something better. But here's the thing. That's not growth. That's performance. That's not peace. It's panic, dressed up in a new outfit and a fake laugh. And you? You're not the one who lost. You're the one they're trying to forget. And failing. Hey folks, imagine this. Someone crashes their car because they weren't paying attention. Instead of learning to drive better, they immediately jump behind the wheel of a new one. Same recklessness, different model. They think changing vehicles means changing habits, but they bring the same chaos with them, and eventually, they crash again. Why? Because it was never the car, it was always them. That's the rebound. That new person isn't healing them, they're hiding them. From accountability, from discomfort, from the silence that was starting to get too loud, the silence that was revealing just how much they took you for granted. But instead of sitting with that feeling, they ran right into someone else's arms, not out of love, but out of escape. You see, a rebound isn't chosen with the heart, it's chosen with the ego. They don't pick someone new because they're ready. They do it because they're scared. Scared to be alone. Scared to feel the consequences. Scared to realize that you were not just another chapter. You were the whole plot they never read properly. But here's what they didn't expect. That distraction doesn't silence your memory. If anything, it amplifies it. Because one day, when the high fades and the glitter wears off, they'll look at this new connection and realize it's empty, it's surface level, it's sugar water compared to the soul you poured into them. They might laugh louder now, but trust me, the quiet moments hit harder, the moments when they reach for depth and find shallowness, when they want peace and feel noise, when they miss being seen, truly seen, and realize the person beside them only knows the version they're pretending to be. And I know, your mind whispers, but what if they're actually happy? That's your heart talking. That's your wounds trying to make sense of why you were left for someone else. But let me remind you, real happiness doesn't need to be posted to be proven. Real love doesn't come from running. It comes from rebuilding. And they didn't rebuild. They distracted. Rebounds are like mirrors. They reflect what's unresolved. They show us who we're trying to forget, not who we're ready to love. So if they look like they've moved on faster than light, don't envy it, pity it. Because what they're doing isn't moving forward. It's spinning in circles, hoping the dizziness makes them forget what they left behind. You were substance, you were safety, you were sanctuary, and now they're chasing noise, hoping it drowns out the silence your absence created. But it won't, because nothing fake ever lasts, and what's real, oh, it lingers, long after the thrill is gone, long after the rebound fades. So while they run, you rest. While they perform, you heal. While they distract themselves with someone new, you rediscover someone old. You, the real you, the one that gave love without playing games, the one who's learning that your worth was never tied to whether or not someone stayed. It was in the way you loved without losing yourself. And eventually, they'll remember that. But by then, you'll be long gone. Not out of bitterness, but because you no longer settle for people who treat connections like trends. So if you've seen them jump into someone else's arms, if you've felt that gut punch of being replaced so fast it makes your head spin, I want you to comment this right now. I am substance. Say it with your chest. Say it with truth. Say it for every moment you thought their rebound meant your love was forgettable. Because next, they don't just start doubting the new person. They start missing the one they couldn't replace. You. Stay with me. Number 5. You become the missing piece in their puzzle. You don't become forgettable. You become unforgettable in your absence. My friends, time has a way of peeling back illusions. At first, when they left, it might have looked like they were thriving, happy, unbothered. That fake peace glimmered like gold under stage lights. But guess what? Even the loudest show eventually ends. And when it does, that silence they once thought meant freedom starts to feel like a void. And in that void, you begin to echo. At first, it's small. A song plays. A phrase slips into conversation. They pass a place that once held your laughter. And for a second, just a second, they remember. But they push it away. Too proud, too distracted, too busy convincing themselves they made the right decision. But time doesn't let them off the hook that easy. Because that new person, the one they ran to, that high doesn't last. The excitement settles. The mystery fades. And suddenly, they realize they're standing beside someone who doesn't understand their moods, doesn't speak their soul, doesn't get the small details you used to catch without even trying. They look across the table, and that new presence, it's not bad. It's just not you, not your energy, not your consistency, not your calm. You see, they thought they were chasing better, but what they really did was abandon real. And now, they're starting to feel it. Imagine this, folks. They're doing a puzzle, piece after piece, trying to recreate the feeling you gave them. But no matter how hard they try, no matter how perfect it looks on the outside, there's always one piece missing. A gap, a space, a silence in the middle of all the noise. That piece, that's you. They tried to recreate the picture, but forgot the one thing that gave it life. And now, their mind starts asking questions they thought they were too proud to ask. Did I mess up? Why do I miss someone I walked away from? Was I actually happy, or was I just entertained? That's what your stillness does. It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It just sits there, quiet and powerful, until it becomes a presence they can't unfeel. You become the pause in their laughter, the weight behind their eyes, the ghost that doesn't haunt to hurt, but to remind. Because let's be real, you weren't perfect. None of us are. But you were real. You showed up. You paid attention. You knew their favorite song and their hidden scars. You were home, not because you fixed them, but because you accepted them, even in the mess. And that kind of presence, you don't just replace it. You can't. And here's what breaks them slowly. It's not the drama. It's the absence of it. The realization that you don't even hate them. You're just not available anymore. You're not watching. You're not reacting. You're not waiting in the wings. And suddenly, they're not the main character in your world anymore. That's a hard truth to sit with. But guess what? That's not your concern. You're not their missing piece because you want to be. You're the missing piece because you were never supposed to be thrown away like a spare. And now that they've tried to fill that gap with noise and distraction, only to find it still there, they start to feel it in places they didn't expect. Late nights, slow mornings, birthdays, milestones, all the little things you used to be part of. And now, just silence. That's when they realize your love wasn't loud, but it was loyal. It wasn't flashy, but it was foundational. And now that it's gone, they don't just miss you. They feel lost without you. But you're not waiting for them to find you. You're already building something better, not with spite, but with self-respect, because you're no longer willing to be a piece in someone else's puzzle, especially one they didn't value until it was too late. So if you felt like you were erased, like your presence was replaced, I want you to hear me loud and clear. You are not forgettable. You are the presence they didn't understand until it became a memory. And if that hits home right now, If you're feeling the truth in that quiet, powerful absence, then I want you to drop this in the comments. I am unforgettable. Say it for every time you doubted yourself. Say it for the version of you that wondered if they ever really saw you. Say it because now they do. But it's too late, and stay with me because next, they don't just feel the absence, they start to spiral in it. Number 6, they begin to spiral, but you stay still. Let the storm rage. You stay grounded. My friends, this is where it all begins to flip. The performance is over. The lights are off. The mask is slipping. And behind the scenes, the person who left you for something louder, flashier, easier, they're starting to feel the weight of their own decisions, slowly at first, then all at once. Because when the thrill wears off and the distraction fades, what's left? An emptiness they didn't expect, a silence they can't fill, a version of themselves they no longer recognize and can no longer outrun. But you don't chase, you don't flinch, you don't budge, you stay still. That's Stoicism, not a lack of feeling, but a mastery of it. Not detachment from life, but discipline within it. Let them spiral, let them chase noise, let them break under the weight of their own ego, because that's not your storm to fix anymore. Imagine this, folks. They're in the middle of a tornado, flailing, panicking, trying to grab hold of something, anything. But all they find is air, confusion, regret. And they glance around, expecting you to still be there, to throw them a rope, to be the calm in the middle of their mess. But this time, you're not their anchor. You're not their lifeline. You've become the sky, vast, unmoved, untouchable. That's what Stoicism looks like in real life. It's not icy, it's intentional, it's not cruel, it's clear. You're not ignoring them out of spite. You're simply refusing to re-enter a storm you already survived. Let's talk about the spiral. At first, they pretend it's all fine. Fake smiles, strategic posts, empty distractions. But their soul knows, their subconscious knows, and eventually the spiral becomes a scream. Not out loud, but inside. It's the way their new relationship starts to feel shallow. The way your name pops into their head at the most unexpected moments. The way a memory hits them at a red light, and suddenly they're replaying everything they thought they could forget. But instead of rushing in to save them this time, you stay still, because your healing doesn't require their chaos. Your peace doesn't depend on their apology. You are not here to pick up pieces you didn't break. And I know it's not easy. Part of you still cares. Part of you wants to know if they're okay, if they miss you, if they finally realize what they threw away. But that part? That's the old you, the one who overextended, the one who confused empathy with self-erasure. You've outgrown that. You're not here to prove your value to someone who couldn't see it the first time. Let them feel the distance. Let them sit in the silence they once celebrated. Because here's the truth. The person who walks away from gold to chase glitter always comes back with empty hands. But you're not gold waiting to be picked up again. You're treasure that buried itself deeper, not to hide, but to protect its worth. And while they spiral, you evolve. You level up in the quiet. You become the version of yourself you were always meant to be, not because of them, but in spite of what they did. While they seek out chaos, you create calm. While they hunt for meaning in distractions, you're building purpose in silence. Let's break another lie right here, right now. We've been taught that silence is weakness, that if you don't respond, if you don't react, you're losing. But that's not loss. That's self-mastery. The ability to sit in your peace while the storm rages around you. That's not silence. That's strength in disguise. You've become untouchable, not because you don't feel, but because you finally understand what's worth feeling for. So if they're spiraling right now, trying to make sense of their choices, and you're watching from a distance, not bitter, not vengeful, just done, I want you to write this in the comments right now. I stay grounded. Say it for the old you who used to chase closure. Say it for the future you who no longer bends for people who broke you. Say it for right now, the moment you realized your stillness is not emptiness. It's power. And stay with me, because next, that silence you're holding, it doesn't just shake their world. It makes them realize they can't reach you anymore. Not because you blocked them, but because you outgrew them. Number 7, they reach out, but you've outgrown the game. Not every apology deserves a response. Not every return deserves a welcome. My friends, let's talk about that moment. The unexpected ping, the text that shows up months later like a ghost trying to breathe again. The, "Hey, how have you been?" The "I've been thinking about you." The sudden like on an old photo. The breadcrumb trail of regret, disguised as casual curiosity. But this time, you don't bite. You don't run toward the message like it's a rescue line. Because you've changed. You've outgrown the game they thought they could pull you back into. See, when they left, they assumed they could return whenever they wanted. That you'd be there. Heart still open, door still unlocked, soul still waiting. Because that's who you were before. The one who forgave too fast, who held the door even while they were halfway out of it. But this time, you've burned that door and built a gate. Not out of bitterness, but out of boundaries. Let me paint a picture for you folks. Imagine a house you once lived in. It was messy, cold. You did everything you could to keep it warm, to make it feel like home. But they kept leaving the windows open, letting in the storm, taking your presence for granted like you'd never leave. But now, you're gone. You found a new space, a new energy, a place where you don't have to beg to be safe. So when they come knocking again, acting like time rewrote the pain, you don't answer. You don't entertain. You don't re-enter the fire you had to crawl out of. Because they didn't just lose a partner. They lost something far more valuable. They lost access. Access to your loyalty, to your peace, to the version of you who kept showing up, even while bleeding. And now that they've spiraled, now that the glitter faded and the noise died down, they remember, they reach. But what they find? Silence. Growth. A version of you that no longer needs their closure, their confusion, or their crumbs. And I know part of you might still feel that tug, that ache. You might hear from them and feel your heart speed up, not because you want them back, but because they were a chapter you never fully got to finish. But let me tell you something. Some chapters aren't meant to be rewritten. They're meant to be closed, highlighted, and never repeated. They had you. They mishandled you. They chose noise over depth. And now they miss the energy that grounded them. But they don't get to come back just because they're uncomfortable with the silence they created. That's not how real growth works. You don't reward someone's chaos just because they finally realized the cost. You've changed. Quietly, powerfully, permanently. Now they reach out to the old version of you, the one who would have responded in seconds. But that version doesn't live here anymore. The person they remember? She's gone. He's grown. They don't realize it yet, but they're talking to a memory, not a mirror. And this is the test, because when they try to come back, and they will, it's not always because they've changed. Sometimes it's just because the person they ran to didn't fill the space they thought they would. Sometimes it's just because their ego is hungry again. And you? You don't feed egos anymore. You feed your own soul. Let's break a myth right here. Forgiveness doesn't always require reconnection. You can wish someone peace and still keep your distance. You can heal and still never let them back in. Because closure isn't about them finally saying sorry. It's about you deciding that your peace matters more than their reappearance. So if you've felt that shift, if you've received the message, seen the signs, heard the knock, but didn't open the door this time, I want you to write this in the comments. Access denied. Say it for the version of you who used to make excuses for them. Say it for the nights you spent wondering what you did wrong. Say it for the calm you've built since they left. And stay with me, because next, the silence they once took for granted. It's about to become their obsession. Because now they realize you weren't just someone they lost. You're someone they'll never reach again. My friends, if this message lit something in your soul, don't let it fade. Let it land. Let it lead. This isn't just healing. It's a whole new level of self. You don't chase. You don't compete. You rise in silence and move in power. So, I want you to drop this in the comments right now. I choose stillness over chasing. I don't compete. I disappear. My silence is my strength. Say it loud. Say it proud. Own your shift. From reaction to regulation. From rejection to redirection. I will see you in the next video.